from Studio 1A in Snowflake Village. You're listening to Pod Bless Kentucky.
All right, welcome to the show this week. And here we are. This is the 4th of July edition of Pod Bless Kentucky. And we have our crew today. We have Dana and we have Sunny. And we have a special guest with us. We have Julie with us, Julie Martinez from Together We Will. She'll be joining us in discussion about what's been happening lately. I mean, we've had a lot going on in the last couple days.
I thought that they were getting rid of me, but I came back, and Julie's with us now, too.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to be here and glad that you're back, too, Dana.
Me, too.
I'm so happy you're both here.
We're very happy here tonight.
Very happy.
So, all right. So, we've had a lot going on in the last, 24 hours. I mean, we had Trump, who put out a crazy tweet this morning.
Okay, wait. He puts out crazy tweets
On
almost a daily basis.
Yeah,
the thing that's
unusual.
different about today's whacked out tweet is, first off, it's on a Sunday, and normally he does not even... We don't
too
hear
busy
from him on the
golfing.
weekend.
Yeah, I was going to say he's
golfing.
usually playing
Normally,
golf.
this is like our vacation also.
Right?
But it didn't happen that way this time.
No, I mean, and he's been in this huge battle with CNN over the last few months. I mean, he's calling it the Fraud News Network. He's called FNN, the Fraud News Network. And, I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I'm surprised that there aren't more journalists standing up. I mean,
There are. They are standing up, and there are, especially if you scroll down Twitter, a lot of them are saying, what's happening, what just because you disagree, just because you, I don't know, just because you're critical.
But those happen to be part of what is considered the mainstream media. You're not hearing conservative.
Fox is silent.
Fox is being dead silent on all of this.
Well,
or actually kind of giving them a pat on the back.
Yeah. Well, and whether he likes it or not, CNN is legitimate mainstream media.
And everybody's going to make mistakes, even
Absolutely.
mainstream media.
Absolutely.
Even everybody is going to make mistakes. Everybody is going to accidentally say the wrong name. I'm notorious for it. Everybody is going to, they want to break the story so fast that they might not have everything perfect and their ducks in a row, but they need to get something out there just to let people know what's going on, and then it's wrong. And that's okay. You retract it. You say, I'm sorry. And you go on.
And actually, this morning, Congressman Ben Sasse basically went on to the conservative radio shows and TV shows and was talking about this. He was actually saying, you've got to be able to trust the media.
Right.
I mean,
there's legitimate critique to be made of the media. There's legitimate ones that you can say. The 24-hour news cycle that actually began with CNN is a real issue in people trying to break news. They always want to be the first one there, and they rush to the stories, and that's a problem. It's changed the way that news is created. It's changed the way that we consume news. So there's a legitimate critique to be made there. What Trump is doing is not a legitimate critique.
Oh, yeah. Let's listen to Ben Sasse and see what he had to say this morning.
I mean, we could go full nerd on this, but the reality is journalism is really going to change a lot more in the digital era. And we have a risk of getting to a place where we don't have shared public facts. A republic will not work if we don't have shared facts. I'm the third most conservative guy in the Senate by voting record, but I sit in Daniel Patrick Moynihan's desk on the floor of the U.S. Senate on purpose because he's the author of that famous quote that you're entitled to your own opinions, but you're not entitled to your own facts. The only way the
Amen.
Republic can work is if we come together and we defend each other's rights to say things that we differ about. We defend each other's rights to publish journalism and pieces and things that we then want to argue about. I agree with the president that there is a lot of crappy journalism out there. Jake, I think you would agree that there's a whole bunch of clickbait out there in the world right now.
Of course.
And it's going to barriers to entry to new journalism are going to go down, down, down. And so it is going to be possible in the next 3 and 5 and 10 years for people to surround themselves only with echo chambers and silos of people that already believe only what they believe. That's a recipe for a new kind of tribalism, and America won't work if we do that. So we need to come together as a people and reteach our kids what the First Amendment is about. And it's not helpful to call the press the enemy of the American people. There are a whole bunch of particular journalists who should be called out for particular stories that aren't good enough. There should be journalistic ethics and integrity. Journalistic agencies and media organizations should admit when they make mistakes, and they should issue corrections, and they should fire people. And we've seen a little bit of that the last week. That's a good thing. We should be celebrating it.
Yeah, I mean, so he was talking about how CNN actually accepted the resignation of 3 reporters. I believe 2 reporters and a producer after they were really quick to kind of put out a story that didn't pass the smell test of CNN. So, I mean, there was a lot going on, and I mean, like Julie said, everybody's trying to get this 24-hour media to get to be the first. And
Right.
so you got to be really careful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing, is that I really agree with what he was saying, is that we can't live in this fact-free world. And really the worst person about that right now is Trump, in that just saying things over and over again as if they are facts, hoping that they will become accepted as facts. I would disagree with the point that he was making, that it's going to be several more years before we live in these bubbles. I think we already live in
we're
them.
totally
we're
Yeah,
there.
we're in there now.
We're all there now, in where I have to force myself to go out and find alternative news sources, to find different perspectives. Not because I don't want to, I do want to, but I have to look for it because my Facebook feed, it's all built around my interests, right? All the algorithms show me the things that match what I already believe, and I have
So
to
it's really
force
easy to
myself
get
out of
into
it.
that pigeonholed
Absolutely.
media group.
Which is why I text her once in a while, and I'm like, I know you have right-wing people on your Facebook. Ask this question.
Yeah, and I do. I try on my personal Facebook to create discussion points
You
in
stir
hopes
the
that we
pot.
can. I'm a pot stirrer. I am a pot stirrer. But, you know,
And there's nothing wrong with that.
With
No,
good
not at all.
intentions, because I like to create this opportunity for people to kind of hear from different perspectives, and hopefully in a way that's kind and participatory, not negative in any way, but because otherwise all we hear are the people who agree with us already, and it becomes that echo chamber he's talking about.
Right.
So, if you didn't see the tweet from this morning, basically it shows Donald Trump actually, when he was doing his WWE days, and he was actually wrestling with a wrestler, or actually I believe it was with Vince McMahon at that time.
Well, it shows
And they-
him also
and they-
like shaving somebody's head, but I don't know who.
And it was Vince McMahon. And what they did, this person on Reddit actually put the CNN logo over Vince McMahon's head, and where it looked like Donald Trump was beating the crap out of CNN.
Right.
And-
So if this was just a reality TV star doing that,
No
and
big
somebody
deal.
made
Yeah,
a funny
everybody would
video
laugh.
about it, whatever, ha ha ha. It's the president of the United
Right.
States.
Exactly.
That's not okay. That's not okay for him to say, oh, this is so funny. I'm going to continue to pummel, both literally and figuratively, a mainstream media news source so that I can say anything I want to about them. It's not all right for him to take that stance.
Well, and I don't know if Tom has the clip or not. The DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, there's actually several that are defending Trump for this action, and they're like, well, but they pick on him. Of course, he's expected to fight back. And
No,
Melania
he's not.
even said, and Melania was like, my husband's going to hit 10 times harder, just like a freaking little schoolyard kid. My daddy can beat your daddy up.
Well, I mean, it's stupid. First of all, her platform is supposed to be cyberbullying,
Right.
and it's exactly what he's doing, which is utterly ridiculous.
That's right.
But no, he's supposed to be a statesman. He's supposed to be the representative of every person on this planet, which means he is supposed to take the high road no matter what. He's got to grow
Every
a
time.
really
Every
thick
time.
skin.
Right.
I mean, how many times did we hear Barack Obama come out and say, basically, F you? I mean, never, you know? And the thing is that he's doing it on purpose, not only because he's a narcissist and he's the thinnest skinned person on the planet, but he's trying to create a divide. It's exactly what he's doing. This is an us against them mentality.
Right.
And he's encouraging it
And
because
it's very
he wants
intentional.
to win.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
You know,
At
this
all
is
costs.
about winning. You
He's
know?
an opportunist.
And
Yeah.
what really bothers me is that, you know, beyond just you should be a statesman, you should be able to have the thick skin, you need to be the guardian of the Constitution. Right?
I don't even
There's
think
an
he knows
idea.
what that is.
And the free press is an important part of our constitutional right. It's necessary for the type of society that we want to live in here.
Well, it's actually, there's actually something that, you know, you're taught in journalism school. It's actually a fourth branch to our government because it is the First Amendment. It is such an important
Part of our
Constitution that it literally is like the fourth branch, and it keeps that checks and balance, even though there's three branches, and that's supposed to keep it in check and balance.
You mean that a constitutional lawyer, like maybe the last president, might have a better understanding
Yeah.
of how our government's supposed to work? Really?
Maybe. Go
It does surprise me on, and I know there's that kind of unwritten rule that former presidents are not supposed to speak ill of the current president. I'm really surprised that Barack Obama hasn't kind of hit the media and saying, "Wait, this is not acceptable."
This
Well,
guy's
he's speaking out
idiot.
in his own way when he can. You know, he's speaking out in his own way.
This is just, in all actuality, though, this is just part and parcel of his absolute war on the media. It is his way of delegitimizing.
Big word.
It was hard, too. Delegitimizing the media, which is a very dictatorship, very authoritarian move. It's something Putin, I'm sure, taught him. I'm sure he emulates and he loves all of these dictators and stuff and the power that they have. And when you have a good working, functioning media, you don't have that power because when you have
Someone
truth,
to keep you in check.
well, when you have truth going out to the mass then can say, oh, wait, I think you're wrong. I think you're doing something different than what should be being done. It's not right.
Well, that's our job. Our job is to hold them accountable.
Right,
And
but
we're not right.
We can't do that
Right, absolutely.
without the help of media.
Oh, absolutely. He is setting it up, especially with all the people who are his diehard believers.
Oh, they're so fucking crazy.
That if you believe, I mean, like you said before, they're all going to screw up. You know, we all
Yeah.
make mistakes. We're all human beings, and we all have to apologize when we do it. But I don't think we've heard him say "I'm sorry" once for the crap that comes out of his mouth when
Never.
he knows he's wrong.
Oh, never.
But
Never.
the more he says it, the more they believe it's true. The more they believe it's true, the more resolute it is, and and absolute that it is. So I mean, we're kind of in this place now where the truth isn't the truth anymore.
And so it also goes, it goes beyond the truth too. He went after Joe Scarborough and Mika.
Yep.
I'm not, in many journalists, but these two specifically, he's pounded on them, and for what? I mean, I don't even.
Oh, and if you listen to the new thing with this whole war between Mika and Joe Scarborough, and
now they
basically
host Morning
the
Joe
Morning
on
Joe on
MSNBC.
MSNBC. Yeah, and they're now. I mean, there is accusation that Trump was going to release something to the National Enquirer about them, and Joe Scarborough actually went on the air and actually talked about this, and this is what he said.
Donald is friends with, the president is friends with the guy that runs the National Enquirer. And they said, if you call the president up and you apologize for your coverage, then he will pick up the phone and basically spike the story. I had, I will just say, 3 people at the very top of the administration calling me. And the response was like, are you kidding me?
I mean, come on. How do you have integrity if you can have a president?
First off, isn't that extortion?
Yeah,
It is.
Blackmail?
It's blackmail. Now, there was a story run a while back about Mika and Joe. They are involved. Right. And there was a story that was run several months ago by the Inquirer in regards to how they left their marriages and things like that. And there was some legitimacy to that whole story. But they're talking about a whole nother story that he was planning to blackmail them with the National Enquirer with.
Oh, yeah.
Correct. And they, from my understanding, it was actually Kushner.
Yes,
it was
Jared,
Kushner.
it was going to be translated through Jared Kushner to the National Enquirer.
So I guess Kushner tweeted, or not tweeted, but like text or called Joe Scarborough. Am I on the right?
I believe
and
he
said,
called him, yeah.
And said,
or at least
all
his
you
people
have
did.
to do. No, it was him.
Yeah.
Because Scarborough he says he has the text messages, and he says he has the voice recordings or something of that. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. When you deal with anybody at that national level of news, every conversation.
Well, I know that Joe said that, they hadn't spoken to the president or someone in his administration alluded to the fact that there had been some going back and forth conversation over several months. And Joe Scarborough said that, no, he's got phone records that prove that this is immediate and now. And not just that, they're contacting their family and their friends, too.
Right. And from what I understand, I think it has something to do with Mika's kids or kid. Julie's like,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I can't even get that far because I'm still stuck on being horrified.
Right.
That the president of the United States wants to blackmail journalists into doing what he wants them to do. I mean, the president of the United States wants to blackmail journalists.
Oh, definitely.
It's horrifying. I don't care what these people did.
So,
it doesn't even matter to me what they did.
In
this instance.
Are y'all aware of any instance where a standing president came out against a journalist and flat out called them out on something? Because
Nixon?
I was thinking there was something with Nixon, but I don't think it was
Yeah, he was guilty too. So
Right.
I mean,
Well, Nixon always had a problem with the press. From day one, from the time he went on to do from the debates with Kennedy, and I mean, he always had a problem with the press. And when the Watergate scandal broke out, and he was trying to dodge as much of the press coverage as possible, much like somebody else we know. So he started bullying the press, and it's very. All right, so I mean, he is dodging. I mean, this is something that is not going away, and he is going to dodge the press, and I mean, he's going to try and make the press look as bad as possible.
do you put any legitimacy into the, smokescreen stuff that everybody keeps claiming that he's doing? He's trying to blow up one issue so we're not looking in another area. Because I'm not sure.
I totally believe that.
You believe that? Because I'm not sure if I believe he's really smart enough to do that, or
I don't know if
Or he
he
has
is, but I
handlers
think
that
there
tell
are
him to do
people
it.
around him that are smart enough to do
And
that.
they're probably encouraging certain areas so he won't.
Well, it's like my 12-year-old, right? If I want to get her riled up about something, I know how to push her buttons, right? Get her all upset. She knows how to push my buttons too, right?
Right.
I totally believe there are people around Trump. They know how to push his buttons. They put a little something in front of him. He'll get all upset about it. And I think there's a number of people who are manipulating him in that manner.
Yeah, because I don't think that he is. I don't think he's smart, okay? I'm just going to say I don't think he's smart, and I think that he is being manipulated by a large number of people around him.
Well, I didn't realize that he has a social media director. I find it very ironic that he has a social media director, but half of his cabinet is not filled yet. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
My head's about to
Gotta have
explode.
priorities, man.
There's somebody, he's got a social media director, but yet he goes on Twitter and just,
Oh, yeah.
just vomits verbally. I mean,
yeah.
So what is that person doing? Because apparently they're just sitting back
drunk.
No,
They're as drunk as we normally are.
he or she is getting
That's
the paycheck
Kellyanne.
that they think all of us protesters are. That's what's happening.
Right? I'm still waiting for my paycheck.
I know where my money is.
I mean,
It's also going to his cabinet because several of those people that are there are at the maximum pay level and they just walked into a job. So.
yeah, that's very interesting. If you haven't looked that up, what his actual like White House aides are getting paid is insane because, and it doesn't compare anything to what previous presidents' White House aides were receiving. So I mean,
And there's a couple of them that have gotten special consideration and are making even more than the maximum allowed.
Oh yeah,
But I know that Kushner, Bannon, Kellyanne Conway, am I
yeah,
right?
she's on
Oh,
there.
I'm already on the list.
Oh.
Give me a second here.
Okay.
Now, so I mean, but then there's other people, Bannon, like you said, but now Ivanka, she's not accepting any kind of paycheck. They made it very clear that
well,
she was
that's because
not.
she's a saint.
No,
Right.
because if she actually was collecting money, I do believe they would be brought up on some kind of charges because
Right.
that's not legal.
the nepotism.
Well, I mean, Kushner's already, come on, that's his son-in-law.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, so here's something to piss you off. Sebastian Gorka and Julie Hahn, two former employees of the right-wing Breitbart News, are both collecting White House paychecks.
so they're like Steve Bannon's
Gorka
lackeys.
is the top Trump national security aide, making $155,000 a year. Hahn is a special assistant to the president and deputy strategist, making $115,000 a year. What the fuck are their qualifications?
Oh no, and what the one that really got me was Omarosa.
She's
you
making
know-
$180,000.
Yeah. What qualifications did she? Oh, she won The Apprentice.
Did,
Oh, I
did you
forgot.
see that she signs her stuff honorable too? Like she's
Oh yeah,
a
like
judge.
she's a judge.
Yeah.
I mean, no.
Oh yeah.
What?
She signs her signature on all of her official stationery is now the Honorable Omarosa blah blah blah.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to
yeah.
start signing my name like that too.
I'm gonna call myself the Exalted Dana. I mean, come on.
Done.
Oh, there you are. The,
Oh, that's
the
going on
exalted
there.
one, Dana.
There we go. I mean, come on. At this point, we can all make up whatever we want. Covefe Dana. You know what I mean?
Covefe is still my favorite.
So I mean, it's crazy. I mean, really, the only thing Omarosa really. I mean, unfortunately, she was actually dating Michael Clark. When,
Oh, and that was sad.
That was sad.
He got very ill and passed away, and that was my heart really went out to her then, and but she's not overwhelmingly a very nice person.
I'm waiting for Stephen Baldwin to get a position in the White House. I mean,
My favorite part of the election was actually Alec Baldwin and Stephen Baldwin going back in Twitter. That was
Exactly.
fabulous. If you want, take some time and go back and look at Twitter and see if you can look at the tweets. It's great.
Well, I think you're missing the main qualification that all of these people have.
They licked Trump's ass.
they were reality stars. They were on reality TV.
This is my only guess.
No, they are part of his circle, right? That's who he hires.
they
are
lick his
people
ass.
that are part of his circle. Well, I'm going to
Oh,
say it
they're
a little
yes
bit nicer
men.
way, but
They're yes men.
They're yes men.
Yeah.
Or women.
Or women.
They are
Yes
yes, people.
people.
Jinx. And that's what he draws to himself, right? He draws people who will agree with him, who will flatter him, who will pamper him, and make him feel good about himself. And meanwhile, they're looking at it from the perspective of, what can I get from this? That's what I'm
Right.
doing,
It's
right?
very
They're
opportunist.
manipulating him.
Yeah, it's very opportunist. What do I get out of this? Exactly.
Right. And
I'm
that's
nauseous.
it is. Well, you should, because it's nauseating. Because
let-
that's going on in our White House, and that's not acceptable. Now, we all are aware of the fact, right, that lots of things have gone on in the White House over
Oh, yeah.
centuries
Yeah.
that have not been very nice, right? We know that. We're not pretending like in the past nobody's ever done anything a little bit questionable. But what's going on right now, to me, is a level of ridiculousness that hasn't existed in the past. Maybe
It's
Nixon,
like the
but-
biggest junior high school ever.
Well, right?
The saddest part about this is that, I mean, before the internet, it was all contained within the country.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, heck,
And
we didn't even know
now-
that FDR couldn't walk. You
I
know,
mean-
I mean,
Now it's an international episode. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
every little thing is being covered, and every little gaffe. the world is looking down on us.
Visante Fox.
I love him.
If you have not seen the Vicente Fox, the former president of Mexico,
I am so in love
giving
with him.
advice to
He trolls
President
Trump,
Trump.
so
hard.
Oh,
It's
But
perfect.
it's amazing. What we'll do is we'll definitely put that up on the website. We will put Vicente on our website if you have not seen it.
But it's indicative of the fact that we live in a global world. We don't live in individual countries anymore, although we may technically live in an individual country. What goes on in the United States impacts the entire world and people everywhere. We're not the only ones concerned, and at least we have the right to protest. At least we have the opportunity to vote in the
We
future.
currently barely have the right to protest. There are so
that's-
many states now are picking up you can hit a protester with a car. You can, you can be arrested and you can be whatever just for protesting. And even in a peaceful protest, and we can go on to that peaceful protest, like what happened
with the healthcare.
With
I mean,
this lab, was it? Oh my God! Has it only been a week? Has it not been a week?
Yeah,
I don't even
it's-
know
Feels
what
like a month.
I know.
Every day feels like a month.
What we're talking about is there was a peaceful protest by
disabled folks.
physically
People with
handicapped folks.
people with disabilities.
People with disabilities who were protesting in different senators' offices, and they were refusing to leave, and they had every right to stay there.
They were specifically at Mitch McConnell's office,
Right,
in the
in
Capitol.
DC.
In the Capitol.
And after so long, the DC police were ordered to remove these people with disabilities.
And when we say removed, I'm talking. I have never been so disgusted and sickened over a video clip. I don't know
And
the
putting
NRA clip.
actually putting people in zip tie straps and
That are in a wheelchair.
Arms
that are in a
behind their
wheelchair.
back in a wheelchair with
And
zip
well,
tie strips.
and physically removing them from their
From their
wheelchairs.
wheelchairs.
Right. If you watch, there's one clip or one segment of it that I was watching in particular. This young woman, she wasn't old, she was young, and obviously needed the wheelchair. She had you could see when they lifted her, you could see her feeding tube, and she's yelling the whole time, don't cut Medicaid, save our Medicaid, and they're carrying her out, and they leave her wheelchair behind, and they take her on the elevator, they take her downstairs, and they set her on the concrete. And then they show the guy upstairs with two wheelchairs, and he's like, I don't know which wheelchair this person goes to and which one that one goes to. And they're like, well, we already have them downstairs, you need to take it down there, and they can figure it out.
Yeah, and
I mean, what exactly did they think that they were going to do in their wheelchair? I mean...
Run them over? I don't know.
I mean, I've known some people who are pretty dangerous in a wheelchair, but at the same time, it would be pretty easy. All you got to do is grab the back to keep them from going anywhere, I mean, it's not like we're talking the extreme measures that they took against the person that they were dealing with. Sometimes I feel like people lose all common sense.
And all these people wanted to do was talk to the senators, specifically Mitch McConnell, and say, listen, you take this away, and I'm going to die. Is
now,
my
granted,
life not worth
granted,
it?
Mitch was on the floor.
Mitch is
he was
still
on
an
the Senate
asshole,
floor.
and it was his staff, and it was
Right.
his aides. And all they had to do was step in and say, they're not hurting anything.
well,
Leave 'em be.
or just, hey, here's an idea. Have a conversation with them.
Oh, my God, no
Right.
way.
And,
Well-
and actually, at one of the senators' offices where this was happening, because it happened at multiple different senators' office, the people started actually speaking with these officers and saying, "Hey, do you have someone? What happens if if you were shot in the street and you were put in my situation?
Well, and the
what
one
would
cop
you do?"
the one cop at first was kind of a dick about it, and he said, well, I'm sure if I got shot on duty, I'd be fine. The police would pay for it and whatever. And she said, but what if you weren't on duty?
Right.
And he just kind of stopped, and you could see all of a sudden he realized, and she said, or what if it was your wife? What if it was somebody else? And you could see that, and there was this little dawn of
The
comprehension.
light bulb went off,
And that's what's shocking to me is why does it take that for people to suddenly think, oh my goodness, how could this apply to me? That should be basic, just rational thought.
Well, and that's the problem now is that, and we say this all the time, I don't have the verified source in front of me, but I read an op-ed piece about the fact that we have now reached the point where we can no longer have civil discourse, and that is a large part of the problem, and that it's very much become an us against them mentality. And we were recently at a healthcare protest, Tom and I were, and we spoke to some people that were there, and we spoke to a gentleman who called himself a moderate Republican. It turns out he's not a moderate Republican, but the conversation started out reasonable, and then it turned into, I'm not going to pay for someone else. Why should I have to pay for someone else? And it's just dawned on me that we have to care about our fellow man,
Right.
and that I'm very tired of the I don't have to pay for you. You know,
my response to that always is, have you ever visited another country? Particularly, have you ever visited a third world country? So the summer I turned 21, I was in college, went to visit my sister who was living in Nigeria at the time. And that was a real introduction to what a society without social nets, safety nets, looks like. So when you're driving in a car and there are literally potholes that are so big that I saw a VW van hung on it. Oh, wow. The frame was hung on the pothole. That's how big the pothole was. You see electricity that doesn't work. You see you don't have water half of the time. But one really clear memory I have, driving down the road, and I see this man, completely naked, running through the streets. His hair is all grown out. He's screaming. Now, I was a fairly naive 21-year-old, and I turned to my sister. I'm like, "What's going on? Why is this man doing?" She's like, "Well, he has a mental illness, and there is no care or treatment here for someone who has a mental illness. They just literally run naked in the streets." I saw a dead body laying in the streets because there was no one to clean them up. There's nobody to take care of those kinds of things. This is what we're talking about. When I talk about, I believe that we should have safety nets, I believe that we as a society are interconnected, it's because I've been to places in the world where there is no safety net, where there is no sense of interconnection. There's so much poverty that people can't take care of even their own family members. That's not where we want to live. We don't want to live like that.
And that was the big thing that when Dana and I was speaking with this gentleman, I said, all right, this medical, this bill that is being put before the Senate is going to affect everyone. I mean, if you have a loved one or if yourself ends up in a nursing home for some reason, albeit a stroke or a freak car accident, I asked the gentleman, I said, do you have long-term disability insurance? Which a large number of this country
Nobody
do
even knows
not.
what it is.
It's incredibly expensive.
Yeah, it's incredibly expensive. And, I mean, he didn't even understand the difference between his premium and his copay. And it was just, he had no clue. And I said, all right, so if you get into a major car accident and you're then having to receive nursing care from a nursing home, more than likely you will be put on long-term Medicaid. And unfortunately, with this bill, there are huge cuts, and it will be gone, and it won't be there for you.
Or it will be so, like, for example, on that, my mother had a stroke several years ago. She's now in a nursing home. She was fine before that. She drew a pension. She drew Social Security. And between those two, she made too much to qualify for Medicaid. So anything that she had gets taken from her now. And she gets $60 a month, and she gets to live comfortably in a nursing home, a decent nursing home. They take care of her. If these cuts come around, there is no
That's
guarantee.
all taken away.
Well,
because she is actually on a long-term medical waiver, right? Because she actually makes too much money by like $200 to qualify for the Medicaid.
Well, and not to mention that if you're above a certain age, if you're elderly, your premium's going to be 5 times
right.
whatever it probably is right now to begin with to qualify for Medicare. So, I mean, when you
yeah.
combine the two.
And we still actually, Julie talked about Nigeria, and we are leaps and bounds ahead of that. But we have a long way to go, because when my mother had her stroke, my daughter was living in Germany. And my daughter said, was telling the family she lived with how the things worked here. And they were appalled and they were disgusted, and they said, why do you treat your old people like this?
Right.
Yeah, it's an excellent question.
I mean,
Yeah,
why do we treat a disabled because our disabled isn't any better off.
And unfortunately, we have a large group of people who are moving, the baby boomer generation.
Right.
And that large group will be retiring and then will need some type of medical care. And the hard part about that is when they were working through the years and through the 70s and the 80s, a lot of people had good jobs. Mm-hmm. And we're thinking, okay, when I retire, I'll have enough money to be able, if I need to go into a nursing home, I should be able to afford it.
Because the costs weren't there.
Yeah, the costs were not there, the medical costs at that time. Then all of a sudden, the medical prices skyrocketed. And what was someone living in a nursing home for roughly about $1,000 a month then became a nursing home that cost $10,000 a month. So a lot of people don't, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize exactly how much a nursing home actually costs.
Right. So my mom lives in a nursing home as well. Also had a stroke. She's elderly. She's in her 80s. The nursing home that she lives in it's a nice one. It's not the super nicest one ever, but it's a nice one, and the people are very nice, which is what's more important.
It's lovely and it's very clean.
It's lovely. It's very clean. Good people that work there. They love her and take care of her. It costs over $7,000 a month.
Yeah.
Over $7,000 a month. This is a middle-of-the-road nursing home. This is not a fancy nursing home.
And this is not something that she has her own room. She shares a room.
She shares a room, a very, very small room. She literally has a bed, a little tiny dresser, a little tiny hanging closet for her stuff. We had to get rid of everything else, or it's in my garage. And that's where she's going to live the rest of her life out, because I literally can't take care of her.
Right.
She needs more medical care than I can give her.
Well, and that's something that needs to also be talked about in this Medicaid, Medicare adjustment, is that I did try to take care of my mother. I kept her for a full year. However, the $2,500 whatever that she made wasn't enough for us to care for her. Well, I couldn't even afford hardly, for me to give her a bath was next to impossible. I had to have a bath aide. I had to have somebody trained. I had to have physical therapy coming in for her. And no person can take that in without working, right? But she's 24-hour care.
Right.
And because I'm related to her, the state won't pay or help me.
Right.
So, but they'll pay the $7,000 to $8,000 to $10,000 a month for her to live in a nursing home where she gets a bath 2 days a week. And that was very upset. I mean, there are reasons to fix it.
Oh, and I completely agree with her. There's lots of things to be fixed about healthcare in our country. Lots and lots of them. But we're not going to fix those by just slashing and burning. Right? What we need to do is have a thoughtful, careful approach. Build on what happened with the ACA, refund it, because the Republicans have already starved it, which is why it's not working the way that it's supposed to.
Right, and they keep touting this whole thing that insurance groups are pulling out of
because
these
they
states.
have to, because they've refused to give them the funds that they were supposed to get.
Right.
Well, and that's because
the insecurity to it.
Right. Some states have refused the Medicaid expansion. I am originally from Texas. Texas refused the Medicaid expansion. So there are areas where there might be one provider. If you don't follow her, Nima Not Nima on Twitter is excellent to talk to about a lot of things. And she and I had a great conversation about the fact that really, if you want to blame anybody for this, you need to blame your representatives on this failing, because they had the opportunity to make this better. They also had
years of it.
They also had the opportunity to go to these insurance companies and say, you will be part of the marketplace. You will sign a 10-year contract. You will, if they can make it illegal for people to strike, which they can, in certain areas. If they can do that, then they can force an insurance company to stay in the marketplace. And they've decided not to, because they're being paid by the insurance companies. And as long as healthcare is for profit, and prior to our lovely Richard Nixon, who comes up again, prior to 1973, it was illegal to profit from healthcare. He introduced the HMO, and the bills that followed after that made healthcare to be available for profit. And so the decline has started in the past 40 some odd years, and that's why we are exactly where we are. And the federal government can force them to stay. They could have made this work, and they've decided not to do it because the person who it affects is not them. And until we force them to, and nothing's going to change.
And Kentucky is a great example of that, right? Where it's our own state senator, I hate to even claim him, right, Mitch McConnell, who's leading these efforts. But yet at the same time, Kentucky's going to be basically the hardest hit state if they actually enact this health care bill.
I think, if I remember right, and I don't always remember right, I looked at the chart, it's a map, and it has everybody, each state by percentage-wise and how they affect it. And I believe it's going to affect 54%.
I think that's what I read as well.
Of all of Kentucky. 54%. There is no other state, to my knowledge, that was higher than that 54%.
Right. Because we did a great job of implementing the ACA here.
We
and
were
it's
supposedly the gold standard.
We were the
Except for
gold
Bevan
standard.
said that we weren't, but
well,
fuck
because
Bevan.
he's a liar. And yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
But
we'll talk about Matt Bevin a little later in the show. So, as we do say every single week, we are not authorities in all of these topics, and we are just four average people sitting around with a few beers and discussing politics.
These are our opinions.
Yep.
And they're mildly inebriated opinions at best. So
Okay, we'll have more discussion after these messages from Blue Apron. Usually I give Blue Apron their talk each
so
week.
excited.
And this week, the ladies wanted to take a chance at talking about Blue Apron. I mean, Blue Apron is so great. Tell me a little bit about Blue Apron.
hey, Sonny, what's the best part of getting together with other people?
Eating.
Well, I would hope so, because we do our fair amount of it here.
We have zucchini bread right in front of us, and
we
we're
do.
just starting it.
Blue Apron helps make that possible for people to get together.
Every time I hear Blue Apron, I go, Blue Apron is the dish for me. Delivered right to my door, yummy. Okay, but seriously.
It doesn't matter if it's two people or if it's your whole family. They provide everything for you. It's fresh ingredients that are pre-measured.
And you were saying something that they now are sourcing it.
They are implementing more and more sustainable sources for their agriculture and their meat products. So.
And really, when you look at the prices, it's not that bad for what you get.
No, and they have really, really great stuff. Like they have pan-roasted pork with mustard sauce. They have...
I'm just kidding.
Sonny doesn't eat pork, so it doesn't sound so good to her, but she would probably eat the Nashville-style hot catfish with red cabbage, apple, and pecan slaw.
See, that one, that fascinates me. What else do they have?
Well, I was going to say, I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but if you'd like to try Blue Apron, go to Pod Bless Kentucky and click on the link and get $30 off your next order.
And then you can sit and eat it in deliciousness.
Well, possibly while you listen to us.
And it's always fresh. That's the best part.
Yeah, everything
it is fresh, and they shop for you. Which,
you don't have
as
to
far
do
as I'm
anything.
concerned, that's the best part.
And it's local. I mean,
they use local providers in your area. So, I mean, you get it directly to you. You make it. It takes you, most of them are within about half an hour to make the meal. So it's a pretty quick way to get dinner on the table. If you're a mom like me, there are times that you absolutely I cannot look and figure out what I'm pulling out of the freezer one more time. So it'd be great to have it come to my door, put it together, and have it ready to go.
One of the greatest things, I love fresh vegetables. I frequent the farmer's market. I'm at the farmer's market every Saturday. And the bad thing is I'm there. I'm there for hours because I'm looking for everything. The great thing about Blue Apron is they bring everything right to you. And you don't have to be at the farmer's market. I mean, it's great to go there. But
they just take all of the work out of it, and they just make it enjoyable because, like Dana said, when you get it together, it's fun to eat. And even if you're just cooking together and then eating, it's still fun.
And they put together the
They put it
recipes.
together. They give you the recipe. They give you the menu. They give you everything you need.
I also think it's great, which, I mean, one thing that just popped into my head, this would be really, really great if you have kids who are learning to cook, too, in terms that they've got everything ready to go and measured for them. They could very easily help you get this on the table and learn to do some cooking on their own, too.
Oh, my God. Or you could just make them do it.
Oh, wow.
Keyword be make. But anyway, please go to Pod Bless Kentucky and click on the link, and you'll get $30 off.
Okay. All right. So there's been other things that have been going on in our world this week. And some of those happen to be, we have Allison Lundergan Grimes, and she went right up against this whole idea that Donald Trump is still searching for this way of proving that 3 million
Dead people.
3 million
dead
people
people,
or
illegal
illegal
aliens voted.
Yeah.
So he supposedly
He's claiming that that there's 3 million people who actually voted for Hillary Clinton that are not,
Because
like,
he needs to knock the number down
Well-
so that he won the popular
Well, he
vote.
can't handle that he didn't win the popular vote, and so he's trying to push this through. And they sent a letter to almost every state secretary of state for every state. But there were a few states who didn't get the letter.
I know Michigan was one that confirmed, and I believe they said Illinois, Wisconsin.
I saw 3. I think it was 3 that did not
I
get
think
the
it was
letter.
Michigan, Wisconsin.
I think I want to say
and-
Illinois, but maybe I could be
But
mistaken.
they were
I'll look.
states that he
Barely.
won.
Barely.
And there's some of the states that are in question on due to the percentage of what he won by. He wasn't going to question those states, which I find incredibly fascinating.
What is insane is the Kansas congressman who is in charge of this committee that set up through executive order to do this research to find out how people voted, I guess, and to see if there was any kind of illegal voter action going on. He's not even agreeing to this. He's in charge of this committee,
He's agreeing to partial of it. He doesn't. He said then because I guess there was enough backlash to it that he's going to. He says he's not going to release the last 4 digits of people's social security numbers. Isn't that nice of him?
Didn't they also, at the very same time that this is going on, didn't Congress take away? I'm going to get this wrong. I'm sorry. They took away the protections against actual voting that, I know I'm getting this wrong. You know what I'm trying
the
to
push
say.
for voter registration or voter ID.
No. It had something to do with the actual oversight of the machines and everything else.
The election verification.
That's gone.
That committee that had been put in place by the Obama administration. That basically it's an ethics committee.
Yes.
And they did away with that. And so if we listened this week from Allison Lundergan Grimes, this weekend, she actually went on to the news shows, and this is what she had to say.
There's nothing to hide. There's simply not enough bourbon in Kentucky to make this request palatable. The one thing the president is doing is bringing not only Democratic but Republican secretaries of state across this nation together. We are not going to compromise the information for billions of registered voters. In Kentucky, 3.3 million registered voters. It shouldn't be lost on the folks across this nation that today is the anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights Act. We have someone heading a commission, a sham commission, literally making government larger, not reducing it, trying to overreach into a domain that is left particularly to the states, and that's elections and the registration of elections. We don't need to be going back to the days, especially where a poll tax was required in order for people to vote. It's the reason you see the Congressional Black Caucus issuing letters across the United States to secretaries over the weekend, urging them not to comply with this request. You don't have to be from Kentucky, Thomas, to know that this smells like horse manure. The time timing of which very suspect. The rapid request that they had for this information over the course of 2 weeks, despite the president being in office since January, there's simply not foundational evidence, and especially experts and studies agree to back up what the president has claimed. And what they're seeking to do is to create a national voter registry. This all during this past week, when we see a president who is insecure about the loss of the popular vote start his campaign for re-election at his own Trump hotel, defund the Election Assistance Commission, and in the same breath ask every Secretary of State across this nation for the party affiliation, the voting history, and the Social Security numbers of registered voters across the United States.
And
this
Secretary,
just doesn't smell right.
I mean, that was kind of crazy. The whole thought of the president asking for this information, especially a president on the day after his inauguration, actually entering into a campaign for re-election.
Well, that's pretty common, though. A lot of times, immediately after they reapply.
Yeah, but they don't have rallies within the first 6 months.
They don't. But she is right about the fact that this is, this shares support across the board. The Republican Secretary of State in Mississippi, which is an incredibly conservative state, as we know, almost always it goes red. His name is Delbert Hosemann, said that his state wouldn't comply with the administration for request for voters' names and addresses, etc. In his statement, he said they can go jump in the Gulf of Mexico, and Mississippi is a great state to launch from. Mississippi residents should celebrate Independence Day and our state's right to protect the privacy of our citizens by conducting our own electoral processes. So he's basically telling them to bite me too.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of scary because, she was saying earlier in the week that the actual website that they want them to upload the information to is not secure. Yeah. So we would be putting Social Security numbers, or at least the last 4 digits of Social Security numbers and names, onto an unsecured website.
And do you know the Trumpansies are saying, oh, but you can just get that anyways. It doesn't even matter. Who cares if you publish the last 4 digits of your Social Security number?
Well, sure, you can get onto my credit card site from that too. I mean,
because they're going to ask you for the same thing. They're going to ask for your last 4 digits.
Yeah, when you call them, they ask you for that. I mean, it screams every time I hear unsecured. All I can hear is, but those emails.
Right.
I mean, we're going to have a shit fit over Hillary Clinton's emails on an unsecured server, but yeah, let's give them the access to our identity, Right. And, I mean, can you imagine if all of that information was collected by fraudulent sources, via China or Russia or wherever, and taken and turned into, the federal government would be responsible for that. So where do we go from there?
Right, and they've shown, obviously, that they are really good at protecting secure information, right? Because certainly we haven't been hacked before.
And the big thing is, and for what? This is for him to feed his ego.
Oh, yeah, it's all about, I've got to be right.
Well, this is a case, but I think this is a case where Trump is being manipulated by other people, right? So they're taking his insecurities and using them to access information towards what purpose? Voter suppression,
Absolutely.
Right? Continuing to gerrymander, which is a terrible problem in this country.
Right.
That's what they're really after. So I think what they're doing is, whoever is actually after this information, is using Trump's own insecurities to push this forward.
Right.
But I also want to talk about for a second, how awesome is it that our Secretary of State in Kentucky was, I believe, the first one to stand up and say...
Yeah, she was.
She was in the first 3
The first 3,
states.
but I think she may have been the first one who actually said it. I don't know.
She was the first one that basically said, fuck you.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, most of them just said
so
no.
this smells like
but-
horse
Right.
shit and you're not getting it.
Right. And I love the fact, I've always liked this about Allison Grimes. I love that she embraces that she's from Kentucky. And she's not afraid to talk like a Kentuckian. She's not afraid to use our vernacular. She's not afraid to drop her accent in when she needs to. But she's smart and articulate, and I am very, very proud, for once, that Kentucky is on the forefront of something right.
And everybody, it was so funny because the first things that came out when her stuff came out on Twitter and MSNBC and everything, everybody was like, well, she should run against Mitch. And the people from Kentucky are like, been there, did that.
Right.
Didn't
Voted.
work.
Prayed to God that she'd win.
Yeah, I mean, largely the people who are going to listen to this are from Kentucky. If you're not from Kentucky and you don't know our relationship with bourbon, it's pretty damn strong. And when somebody here says not for all the bourbon in Kentucky, we have more bourbon than we do people. So, I mean,
We have a bourbon county. We believe in bourbon.
And we cherish our bourbon.
we do. So that is a strong statement. So,
So I understand what all you guys are saying, and I appreciate how to look at the voting registration and all that other stuff in this different way. The first thing that I saw when they ask for your name and your address and your social security number, I swear to you, the only thing I saw was they want to know that I'm a Democrat so they can line me up and shoot me. Because
Especially after the rhetoric that came out
Well,
this
it's-
week from the
you know,
NRA.
I think
Right.
it
Holy
comes
cow.
more
If
from...
Show
you
me your
haven't
papers.
seen this month's ad campaign from the NRA,
It's frightening.
it is quite scary. And
it does. It did have it because it came out at the same time. But you also have to think. For me, it was a lot of when you're growing up and they say don't put your religion down on any federal paper. Never, ever, ever. If somebody asks you to write down what your religion is, do not put it on a paper that's going to go to the federal government. And
Yeah, 'cause-
that was what snapped in my head as soon as they said they were going to turn over whether I was... And I am sure, I am 100% positive that if Trump and his campaign really wanted that information...
especially since you have nut jobs who are saying liberalism is a disease and that...
and that they're not even humans.
Yeah,
and
well, I mean, I can remember when I voted for the first time. I voted for the first time in 1992, and I was 18 years old. And when I went to the polls, of course, I went with my parents to vote, and my mom said, "Who you vote for is your business. It's private." I mean,
You're
we
right.
didn't even discuss
is.
it at home. So why do I have to turn over information to the federal government that I wouldn't necessarily even tell my mother? I mean,
There's no
granted-
reason for them to have that information.
and I think that we're all, at least we are. There are a lot of people who are very quiet about who they vote for. In this election, I was
Maybe
chanting
not
it-
me.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say this election, I was chanting it from the treetops. Everybody on the planet knew who I was going to vote for. I mean, and I'm okay with that. In this state, if you want to vote in a primary, you have to register with a party. Some of them you don't. I don't think you should have to be required to register for a party to vote in the primary. But I mean,
that's a whole other discussion.
yeah,
I have
that is
my
a whole
opinion
other
on that
discussion.
also.
No, but this screams. I keep
It
hearing.
screamed to me tracking. It screamed to me
Yeah.
identification of who votes for whom and a way, like Tom said, that
Well-
damn NRA video, it had me freaked out before, and when they requested that,
Another concerning thing is this is something that's left, and many conservatives should be rallying about this because it is a states' rights issue.
right.
I mean, the federal government puts elections in the hands of the states, especially the Secretary of States, to administer the elections. And to take that out of the hands of the state and say, okay, we're gonna then kind of investigate it and kind of take this out of their hands. That's kind of concerning.
Well, it's really interesting to me that some of that rhetoric has switched because really it's usually the conservatives
That's what I was gonna say,
who are
too.
always wanting to talk about states' rights, decentralization, moving away from the federal government. But in the last few months, suddenly it's Democrats, it's liberals who are standing up and going, why are you trying to continually grow the power of the federal government, even though at the same time they're slashing education, they want to slash healthcare, they want to
dismantling the
they're
EPA.
dismantling the EPA, exactly. But then this other information, which doesn't belong to them, they shouldn't have that, and they have no reason to ask for that.
Well,
now they're
Other than to
stuffing
feed his
in there.
ego.
Well, and the thing is that it screams, I mean, they're supposed to be the party of small government, and they're just encroaching. To me, it feels so McCarthyistic that I can't. We all
Right.
have to sit before the panel and say, "Oh my God, I signed a socialist notebook 6 years ago because,"
Yeah, but here's the thing: if I want to be a socialist, then I'm going to be a socialist.
You have every
and
damn right to
I
be
have
one.
every right to be one, and it has nothing to do with anybody else who I am. You know, the other day I went and I had lunch with somebody who's a socialist, and I texted my husband afterwards, and he's like, all right, well, they're going to add that to your FBI file. You know, but the reality is of the things that we're doing right now as people who are being politically active, I'm a little bit afraid maybe I do have an FBI file.
Well, and you know what?
I totally do.
Well, I've just come to the conclusion that I have to, no matter what is in a file somewhere or what they hear me saying somewhere, because they're listening to me anyway, it doesn't matter. First of all, they've got bigger fish to fry than me. If I am of that much interest to them, they need to get lives, you know. And second of all, I firmly believe in what I'm doing. So I mean,
Yes.
if that's what they're going to hold me accountable for, I'd stand up for it anyway. So I mean, but the fact that they're so concerned with who I voted for, Clinton, you know, I'll sit here and tell you now, but the point, you know, I
that's
shouldn't
what a lot of
have to.
people in Kentucky had a hard time with when Allison ran against McConnell, because she did not admit that she voted for
she was in a
Obama.
tough spot.
She
was in
was.
a tough spot.
So those people who were saying, "Oh, she needs to run against McConnell," well,
Yeah, she did, and she ran hard, but it was incredibly difficult. And when you also talk about the amounts of money that are coming in, you have all these outside interests, and that's what you see happening in Kentucky right now, right? We saw that so much this year so far already, where we have people who are not Kentuckians who are buying their way in to our government and making choices for us that are not in our own best interest. And I think that that's happening across the entire country, right? We saw that in the special elections that have taken place. I think we're going to continue to see that. And that's a problem that we're going to have to deal with, is the money in politics.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I very much agree.
And just because it is an uphill fight. We are going to have to fight against large amounts of money that come into our elections. And on a good note this week, one of the surprising things is we have our first candidate who actually announced that he was going to run against the Andy Barr seat for the 6th Congressional Congress. And that would be Reggie Thomas. And so he announced the other day, and this is a little snippet.
And people in Kentucky are starting to lose faith that their children and grandchildren will have better lives than they have had. It is time that we have a representative in Washington who will put the people of Kentucky first. And that is why I'm announcing I am a candidate for United States Congress in Kentucky's 6th Congressional District.
So Reggie Thomas actually announced that he is running, and he did that on July 1st. And I mean, it's going to be a good thing. I mean, I can't think of a better person to run than Reggie Thomas. I mean, we do have a few other candidates that have been kind of saying, yes, I'd like to, and I'm investigating it. But he is the first to throw his hat into the ring.
There's somebody else who I've got my fingers crossed who decides to throw their hat into. But, I mean, at this point, you know, I think Reggie, you know, would do a great job if he were elected. I think that anybody would do a better job than Andy Barr right now, but that's also because his head's so far up Trump's ass, he could see light from his throat. So, I mean,
That's very true.
Well, you know, I think Andy Barr is so sold out to the GOP ideology right now that he can't see past that to see what his own constituents are saying to him.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
we're saying to him, please listen to us. Please actually think about what's going on in Kentucky. But he's too interested in what's going on in Washington, D.C. He's not interested in what's happening in Lexington or in the surrounding counties around us.
Well, he also has one of the most gerrymandered districts in the United States. So, I mean, he's going to get elected.
In the top 10.
Yeah, he's going to get elected. You know, he's pretty confident of his reelection. You
yeah.
know, and you're right. I mean, I've written him before, and I've gotten these letters that in no way, shape, or form address the question that I've answered. And when they do address it, it's basically to reassure me
very
that
dismissive.
Well, it's going to say it's basically to reassure me that he's making the right decision for me, and which really just makes me want.
What could possibly make me more angry?
I know exactly.
Than some man making a decision on my behalf.
Exactly.
That doesn't actually have anything to do with me.
I mean, he is the epitome of the bought and paid for politician. I remember when he did the rally at Lafayette High School, and
Well,
as I stood in line
to try and pump out the tell us how great the AHCA.
Oh no, it was still the ACA. No,
it was the AHCA.
Yeah,
ACA is
from the
what
House.
we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, the House one, not the B.
And
so I don't know anymore. I give up.
when I was waiting in line to actually speak with him, I was looking through all his donors, and it was amazing on how much money he accepted from the healthcare industry.
Almost $1 million, right?
Yeah, and how much he accepted from the coal industry, and to propagate the whole idea that coal energy was extremely important, because even in here in Lexington, which is vastly almost 100 miles away from the nearest coal mine, the lobbyists for the coal industry have a huge office right here that fund Andy Barr.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I'm excited about Reggie Thomas declaring his candidacy. I have seen him at every single rally, everything that I've been to.
He's very supportive.
He's very
at
supportive
everything.
of the grassroots activism that we're all involved in.
Absolutely.
I see him out talking to constituents constantly. He's asked me personally before, what are you interested in? What is your group a part of? How can I listen to you? How can I serve what you guys are about? And so I'm impressed by that. I'm excited to see who else might declare their candidacy as well. The idea of having multiple progressive candidates that actually want to talk about issues that are important to us is incredibly exciting to me. And I hope that we will be able to hear from them that will shed some light on some other perspectives, because part of the problem in Kentucky is there's been this one narrative, the coal, the other things that go on here, it's stuck in this narrative, and I don't think people get a chance to hear some of the other exciting ideas that I think that we have. This state has a lot of potential, and we're not living up to it.
And there are some folks that are really, really good candidates that are going to be that have said that they're really looking into it and are on the edge of actually declaring their candidacy.
Yeah, and in our particular group that I represent, Together We Will Bluegrass, we're not going to be endorsing a primary candidate. I'm excited about seeing who might be out there, what's going to happen, but whoever wins that primary, we will be behind, and I will personally be behind, because I believe it is so important that we start representing Kentucky's real interests, and we get people into Washington who are actually listening to people and who care more about what we need in the state than they do about what's going on in Washington, D.C.
Very true. All right. Some of the other things that have been happening, Governor Bevin.
I was going to say, Sonny's going to lose it if we don't talk about Matt.
Yeah, we've got to talk about Governor Bevin.
I don't even remember what I wanted to start with on him.
What's one of the things I saw this week, which was very interesting, Governor Bevin had talked about how he was bringing industry into Kentucky.
I think we lost jobs, didn't we?
Well,
we're going to.
We will be, but he had commissioned this deal.
That aluminum foil company.
Yeah, to bring in an aluminum company to Kentucky.
How appropriate is that?
Usually a governor goes in and says, okay, we'll give you tax incentives and things of that nature. However,
he's paying them.
Yes, we paid up front close to $15 million for them to actually...
So you know why aluminum is important in Kentucky? Do you know this?
Not a clue.
Beer.
No.
Beer?
Coal.
Hats.
Coal.
Hats? Oh my God.
Coal.
Yes, because...
It's about coal. So the reason that there is already aluminum manufacturing in Kentucky is because aluminum is incredibly energy inefficient.
Right.
To create. You need a lot of energy to create it. So you have to have a cheap energy source. So for instance, the one that's over in western Kentucky actually has a coal power plant right beside it. They have trains that come directly to there to power the manufacturing of aluminum.
Huh.
So you can't create aluminum, you can't manufacture it in a place where energy is expensive. So if you wanted to get on the good side of some coal companies who are trying to keep coal manufacturing in Kentucky, to bring another aluminum manufacturing plant in Kentucky would be one way you could go about doing that. The problem is that coal mining in Kentucky has already been declining for 50 years.
Right.
They have mined out the mountains. There is not an endless supply of coal in the mountains. Nobody knows how much coal's left in the mountains. They don't know. There's coal in eastern Kentucky, there's coal in western Kentucky, right? There's 2 different mine fields. There are 2 different types of coal. Nobody knows how much is actually there. The coal in western Kentucky is dirtier coal, so to speak, but you can scrub it. We have better scrubbing technology than we used to have. The coal in eastern Kentucky was a more popular coal because it's really clean coal. It's really good coal. But nobody knows how much is left in eastern Kentucky, and it's hard to get to it.
Right, because
Right.
the seams have gotten smaller and smaller through the years.
Because they've mined it out.
Well, and deeper. I'm assuming
Well, they have
it
to
would
go
be
in deeper.
Much deeper.
The seams are really small. They may be less than a foot worth of a seam. Where you're talking about, like out in the west of the United States, not western Kentucky, the west of the United States.
Yeah, and they could have
there's
6
coal
foot
seams that are
seams
6
there.
feet, 10 feet high,
Well-
but it's very dirty coal.
Well, I was going to say I learned a little bit about coal this past week, I will put my ignorance out there. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I did learn that there were different types of coal, and that some burn hotter and some burn colder
Right.
based on the hardness of it. Correct.
Correct.
So, what do you happen to know? What kind is here in Kentucky, or I mean,
Not charcoal.
There's levels of
Right.
types of coal, right? The one that's at the very top is the kind that's in eastern Kentucky.
Okay.
That's the Appalachian coal. That's why coal has been so
so that's the good
effective.
hard stuff that.
Yes,
Okay.
that's the best kind of coal that exists. It's very, very clean. It's not mixed with anything.
puts up a lot of heat. I know the
Right,
harder
it
it
burns
is, the more heat.
hotter.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to use that for particular types of manufacturing and that type of thing.
Specifically aluminum.
Well, this,
But you also have to be aware of the fact that while they, for many years, in eastern Kentucky and other parts of Appalachia, they were mining this coal, but basically they were just extracting it from the earth, and it was not in any way benefiting the people who lived in those areas. So while they were just taking out the coal, people were making tons and tons of money off it, that money wasn't coming back into the area. So we talk about the poverty in eastern Kentucky. That poverty is created because for years all we've done is extract. We extracted coal, we extracted lumber, we extracted every natural resource we could, including our young men to go out and fight wars, right? Because when you're poor, what are your options? Join the military, right? And so all we've done is extract. We've never put back in as a country. And so now we make fun of these people then and call them stupid. We call them poor and illiterate. But yet we've extracted everything from them without giving them anything back.
right.
Okay, that's my rant for tonight.
So he's paid them $15 million, not in tax credits or incentives or anything like that. We've actually just written them a check for $15 million.
Taxpayer
Very
money.
true.
$15 million.
So yet
And
again,
then he bragged
right,
that
we're
this coal
extracting.
because of, and the crazy thing is he bragged that they were coming to the state because of, imagine this, the right to work laws.
The
Because
ones he
Kentucky was-
eliminated?
yes, because
No.
Oh, no, the ones that
yeah.
Well,
right
and
to
there's
work
something
is
to be-
actually anti-union.
anti-union. That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So he said he went out and he touted that, yeah, because we passed this legislation, this aluminum company was going to be coming to Kentucky.
Right. So, but again, that actually might be true because right to
Because of the
work
extraction.
means exactly because right to work means that they have the right to bust unions. Unions give people the opportunity to say, I need good working hours, I need good working pay, I need
Safe.
benefits, I need to be safe.
Right.
That's what unions do for, well, okay, from a manufacturing company's perspective,
That's
it's
money.
better because all of those things cost money.
Right.
So what we're going to give you is cheap labor who has no voice, and we're going to extract from them, yet again, the opportunity to be safe, the opportunity to have decent working environment, etc., decent pay,
And because of
etc.
Mitch McConnell, they're not going to have health care.
There will
Well-
be no health care.
Well, and they lose their black lung,
the
Yep.
black lung
Right.
benefit.
provisions that are there for minors specifically. So
Right. So basically, once again, the people
Bevan
of
hates
Kentucky
us.
are paying to
McConnell
line the
hates
to line the pockets of corporations.
So, and they sell that underneath the guise of it's employment.
Hey, we're bringing jobs.
We're bringing jobs back to the area. It's employment. You're going to be able to feed your families. And the problem is the people in those areas do desperately need the jobs. So they do, to some extent, see it as a benefit for them. And-
However, like a big part of this is now turning automated.
right.
So the jobs
Well, if
are
your
not going to
seam,
be
if
there.
the
as
seam
much
is a
as-
1 foot seam, you can't send somebody down there to pick it out.
Well, and that's the thing is that in mining particularly, automation is what's actually killed all the coal jobs.
Right.
And there's data that shows this. It's been going on for decades. When they introduced automation in mining, there's a huge dip if you look at the number of jobs that were available in Kentucky. And that's going to be true of any kind of manufacturing. Now, like Toyota came in, Toyota provided lots and lots of jobs. Toyota came here for tax incentives, cheap electricity. So there's a really tight correlation between cheap electricity and manufacturing in the state. And that's a really true thing. But let's talk about what people in Kentucky actually need. And that's what I don't think ever gets actually discussed, because we're always too worried about bringing in corporations, creating money for them, paying lobbyists. You know, how do we get reelected? How do we get reelected? How do we get it's a loop that gets stuck on. And the people of Kentucky don't ever get any attention because we're just one more resource for them to extract.
I fucking hate Bevin.
Well, all right.
Well, he's an outsider,
Well,
right?
I do enjoy it when people call him a carpetbagger. I
was
don't know
gonna
why.
say,
That just makes me so damn happy.
Nima loves to call him a carpetbagger. I mean, like, it's a term I haven't heard.
In a long
But
time.
I think it's
history
totally
class.
appropriate, really.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I mean, it's an outsider coming into the South
To
and
benefit, to profit.
to profit. It's exactly what I
Claiming
see
that
that he's
they
doing.
know
Claiming
what's
that they
best.
know what we need here in Kentucky. How do you know what we need here in Kentucky when you aren't from here? When you've never lived here and you haven't taken the time to actually get to know anybody or listen to anybody.
That's exactly right. He hasn't taken the time because, again, it's very much like he's right, you know, and it's very much that authoritarian attitude.
Right.
You know,
He
from,
follows in
the
Trump's
very-
footsteps.
From the very first, we didn't know each other. Well, Tom and I knew each other, but the rest of us didn't know each other. Do you guys remember when Bevin first took office and, like, on his first day, his first Monday of work, he goes marching into the House or into the Senate, onto the Senate floor, and he flings open the door and he has the video and he's like, "Look, they're not working. It's
Because
Monday
they were
morning."
all in committees that's in a different
But
building.
he didn't even know that.
Did he not know that, or
I
was he
don't
just
know.
trying to
No,
play
I
with
think
us all?
I'm with Judy.
I don't
think
know
it was a
anything,
photo
and I know
op.
that they meet in committees in a different building. And what do I know?
Well,
Come on.
I figured he just was being.
It's
I mean,
it was a
Somebody had
show.
no
It was
clue,
a
yeah.
show.
It was a show.
You know?
It was a show to make him look like he knew what was going on, and he was going to come in and blah blah blah
And the,
blah
the
blah.
thing
like
is,
an
is
idiot.
that, no, but the thing is,
But
he
it didn't
doesn't.
to
He
his
doesn't.
followers.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. What
Because
it
they don't
does-
know either, apparently.
Well, no, they don't know, and they're gonna believe him. You can't retract it after the fact and go, but they were in committee. Oh, but that's what he said. You
Yeah.
know? I mean, he showed us. There's proof they weren't doing their job.
and I guess he too is having a media war.
Oh yeah, he's well.
As-
that's
as
the thing.
we've
He's
talked about.
following right in the same footsteps after Trump,
Yeah.
attacking the media, attacking the press. He's even made fun of protesters in the same way, right? He's
Yes.
made fun of specifically my group when we've been protesting before. He's actually spoken to about us and had saying things to say about us. To me, somebody who's out actually protesting peacefully, following the law, doing what they ought to do, what is more American than that? I don't think there's anything more American than that.
Very true. All right. Well, so the things that are going on in our region, I know that a lot's been going on. And this week, we're going to take a look at the calendar. This week, we're going to start out with Monday Night for Rights. We will be at
Blue Stallion.
Blue Stallion Brewery on 3rd Street.
Yes, I do understand that it is the day before.
Our
4th of
Independence
July.
Day.
However, I do feel that there is no better way to be a patriot than to be expressing how you feel to your congressman, your
And
reps,
all your legislators.
your
Yeah.
legislators, everybody. So that's
So
that's
please
my
join us
justification for drinking the
Monday
beer
Night
that
for
night.
Rights at Blue Stallion. Is there any protests coming up? I'm sure there will be pop-up protests throughout the 4th of July.
Well, I know that on the 6th is a sit-in at McConnell's office in Lexington.
In Lexington.
It is in Lexington. It's hosted by Our Revolution Central Kentucky.
And it's actually part of a whole series of sit-ins that are going to take place across the entire country. That's all being called for on the same day. So everywhere across the country, people are being asked to go and sit in their senators' offices to protest the health care bill.
That's
on Thursday, right?
That's on
On Thursday.
Thursday from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. So it's an all-day thing. If you can't show up to some of it,
Just
at
come as
least
you can.
Just come as you can, and that's on Corporate Drive in Lexington. At his Lexington office, and if there's other ones, I'm sure there's one.
It's
then in
very
Louisville.
possible there's one going on in Louisville as well. I haven't heard of that yet, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other?
Not that I can think of. Dana, do you know of anything coming up this week?
No, I have to admit I've been woefully inadequate because I was on vacation last week, so I haven't.
We'll
paid
give
much
you that
attention.
pass this week. All right. Well, that does it for this week. We appreciate that you listened, and pretty soon we'll be taking Pod Bless Kentucky. You'll be getting other ways to obtain our wonderful podcast. We're going to be uploading it to iTunes shortly, and we'll be going out, and we'll have great speakers or guest hosts that will be coming in. Julie came in. I'd like to thank Julie for coming in today.
Thank you for
Julie.
having me. It was wonderful to be here with you all.
Yeah, we're going to be getting some of the other folks from other organizations to come in and talk with us. And you'll probably see us from time to time out on the road. We'll be taking Pod Bless Kentucky on the road at different places. And
If you see a guy with a microphone and a girl holding an iPad, it's probably us.
It's a pink iPad. That's why Tom won't hold it.
So that does it for this week. And as we say every week, the resistance is real, the resistance is working, and the resistance needs you. So, all right, we look forward to catching you next week. And you guys have a great week, and happy 4th of July.
Peace.
There's an old man named Mitch McConnell. He's the old lion of the GOP. What does he care if our health ain't covered, long as he gets his taxectomy? Old man Fibber, that old man Fibber. He says it's health care, he knows it's wealth care, but old man Fibber, he just keeps rolling the con. He don't like workers, he don't like renters, he likes them tax cuts for 1%ers. So old man Fibber, he keeps on rolling the con. You and me, we sneeze and cough, had some health insurance, but we got kicked off. If we should die before we wake, least we'll know we're dying for some billionaire's sake. Hope that Mitch has a good physician, 'cause heartlessness is a bad condition.